නිවසේ මෙවැනි මත් පිට රැඳෙන විස බීජ 99.9%ක්ම විනාශ කරන විම් ක්ලීනර්ස්.
Tonight, in Top Gear, 2 million doses of the SINOPHARM vaccine touches down in the island as overtures are made about the vaccine's efficacy. Adverse weather, heavy rains to reduce, but the winds set to continue. Reparations, a comprehensive assessment of the damage caused by the Express Pearl disaster underway with the first interim report expected in 3 months.
We are in the process of doing the comprehensive damage assessment. For that, we have given this expert committee a COR of 3 months. We are expecting them to produce their first interim report.
Extent of frustration. 2 more suspects arrested over the sexual exploitation of a minor. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Sunday, the 11th of July, 2021.
කට උත්තර නැති වෙන්න කලින් සිග්නල් ඩීප් ක්ලීන් එකකට මාරු වෙන්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhamma Keknai. Now, 2 million more doses of the SINOPHARM COVID vaccine reached the island today from China. The SINOPHARM jab is widely used in the country's vaccine rollout and to date has been used to inoculate over 1 million people. Today's consignment takes the number of doses of the jab Sri Lanka has received so far to over 7 million, with over 1 million being a donation.
Sri Lanka's vaccination program has greatly picked up pace in recent days. Walk-in vaccinations were made possible for people above the age of 30 in the Western province, while over 60s were allowed walk-in vaccinations in other provinces, with the extra centres operated by the Triforces added to the system. The move continues to draw a positive response as many have availed the service. Another factor for the momentum in the inoculation drive is the vaccine availability. 2 million doses of the SINOPHARM vaccine arrived in the island today from China, taking the number of doses in the island to have been received in this month alone to 4 million. 7.1 million doses of SINOPHARM has arrived in Sri Lanka to date, with 1.1 million of it being donation from China. With the vaccine supply hiccups rectified, 2.5 million people in the island have been given at least 1 dose of a vaccine. It has been decided to distribute the latest consignment of 2 million vaccine doses among 12 districts. 100,000 doses each will be allocated to Galle, Matara, Hambantota, Anuradhapura, Nuwara, Ratnapura, Badula and Matale districts. Meanwhile, Colombo and Kurunegala districts will get 200,000 doses each. The Kalathur district will be given 300,000 doses from the vaccine consignment to arrive in the island today, while Gampha will be given 500,000 doses.
අප බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ ලැබුණු එන්නත් මාත්‍රා ලක්ෂ 20 හෙට දිනේ සිටම එන්නත් කරන වැඩපිළිවෙල සඳහා යොදා ගන්න. ඊළඟ සතියේත් අප බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා තවත් ඒ හා සමානම එන්නත් ප්‍රමාණයක් අපේ රටට ලැබෙයි කියලා. දේශීය වශයෙන් සිදු කරපු පරීක්ෂණයකින් මේ වෙනකොට මූලික වශයෙන් කරුණු අනාවරණය වෙලා තියෙනවා. කොරෝනා වෛරසයේ ඩෙල්ටා ප්‍රභේදයට සයිනෝෆාම් එන්නතේ ඊටාම සුවිශේෂී රැකවරණයක් තියෙනවා කියලා.
The country's vaccine regulator, the National Medicines Regulatory Authority, has given emergency use approval for a total of 5 COVID vaccines so far. AstraZeneca's India-manufactured vaccine COVISHIELD was the first to be approved. Current studies show that COVISHIELD is 63.9% effective against the global dominant variant, Delta. The Russia-made Sputnik vaccine was the second to get approved and used. At that time, data from clinical trials put the jab's efficacy at 97.6%. China's SINOPHARM vaccine, which is the most widely used in the island, is said to be 79% effective against COVID-19. The most recent approvals were given to Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which studies have shown to carry 84% and 94.1% efficacy respectively against the Delta variant. It is just as well that the immunization drive is in top gear. 1,474 new COVID-19 infections have been confirmed today so far, taking the country's active case tally to 26,619. Meanwhile, 1,538 patients were confirmed to have recovered from the virus today, taking the overall figure to 244,438. In other developments, Chief of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavindra Silva announced that the Paragala Gramaladara division in the Ratnapura district is placed under isolation. Further, 8 areas in the Colombo district and 1 area in the Ratnapura district are also brought out of isolation.
අද සේවසකට වැඩි ජනතා විශ්වාසය නව සංයෝගයක රයිනෝ රූෆින් සහ සීලිං ෂීට්.
The Ministry of Education says that the dates already announced for the Grade 5 Scholarship Examination and the GC Advanced Level Examination for the year 2021 will be reviewed. Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Professor Kapila Perera, says that the decision on the examination dates will be announced in due course. The Grade 5 Scholarship Examination was previously fixed for the 3rd of October, while the GC Advanced Level Examinations were set to be worked off from the 4th to the 31st of October. The heavy rains experienced in the Central Hills and the southwestern parts of the country are expected to subside from tomorrow. The winds which accompanied the rains also wreaked havoc, gutting houses and uprooting trees. They are, however, expected to continue for the time being.
The inclement weather, which intensified across the Central Hills as well as the southwestern parts of the country last Thursday, has so far affected over 12,000 people across 3,000 families. One person has already lost his life, with 2 people being injured so far. The heavy winds that blew across the Central Hills yesterday uprooted a large tree which collapsed onto a house in the Lakshapana estate. However, no casualties were reported from the incident. Meanwhile, a spill gate of the Kotmale Dam was opened today due to the heavy deluge that fell in the Central Hills. Further, our area correspondent also confirmed that 3 spill gates of the Mausakale Reservoir are also open. The authorities request the people living downstream of Kotmale and Mausakale reservoirs to be vigilant. In the Kaluthara district, 3 spill gates of the Kukuleganga Dam were opened yesterday as the water level reached spill level. As a result, the main road from Bulat Sinhala to Molkava was flooded, disrupting traffic. However, today's rainfall was not as intense as it had been over the last several days, and it prompted the closure of 2 of the 3 spill gates previously opened at the Kukuleganga Reservoir to be closed. According to our area correspondent, the water level in the area is currently receding.
Still, people has to be very vigilant beside the Kalan River, Kalu and Nilvala and Ging rivers. House damages and all will be compensated by the Disaster Management Center and the Relief Center and the official from the downstream to the upstream that they have continuously deployed with that particular situation for the relief purposes which occurred since few days time. 117 call center number is totally open for all disaster management activities, and the military and the police and the search and rescue teams with the equipments been still deployed in many areas of that particular vulnerable for these kind of situations with the guidance of the technical agency.
In the meantime, the Navy has deployed 8 relief teams in several areas of the Kaluthara, Ratnapura and Gaul districts in preparation of possible floods. The Navy says that 25 Navy flood relief teams in the Western Naval Command and 12 teams in the Southern Naval Command are kept in standby for prompt deployment in case relief is required by the people. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology expects the heavy rainfall to reduce in the southwestern parts of the country starting from tomorrow.
We can expect strong gusty winds up to 60 to 70 kilometers per hour over western slopes of the Central Hills as well as western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Gaul and Matra districts today also. And regarding the showery conditions, fairly heavy falls above 75 millimeters, also likely at some places over western slopes of the Central Hills, that is Sabaragamuwa province and Kandy and Nuwara districts as well as Gaul and Matra districts also isolated fairly heavy falls above 75 millimeters can be expected today. From tomorrow onwards, some sort of reduction in heavy falls can be expected. Tomorrow we expect isolated fairly heavy falls about 50 millimeters over these western slopes of the Central Hills. Regarding the typical monsoon rain, we can expect several spells of shower over the remaining southwest quarter like Western Province and Galle and Maathur district tomorrow.
Big 3.
Now, in other local stories, Sri Lanka has inked an agreement with the company New Fortress Energy Incorporated to construct an offshore liquefied natural gas terminal. It will see natural gas being introduced to the island for the first time, and the supply will focus the power plants located in the Kerawalapitiya Power Complex. Now, the new terminal is expected to be operational towards the second half of next year.
Fortress Energy Incorporated has signed a framework agreement with the government of Sri Lanka to construct a new offshore liquefied natural gas receiving, storage and regasification terminal. New Fortress Energy said that the terminal will be located off the coast of Colombo to supply gas to the island's power plants primarily located in the Kerawalapitiya Power Complex. The Kerawalapitiya Power Complex consists of 300 megawatts in operation and is ultimately expected to grow over 1,000 megawatts by 2025. The communiqué said that as part of the agreement, New Fortress will supply natural gas to the existing 300 megawatts Yugadanavi power plant and is negotiating the purchase of the government's 40% stake in the company that owns the power plant. The plant consists of General Electric turbines and was configured to run on natural gas in combined cycle. The plant terminal will introduce natural gas to Sri Lanka for the first time and will assist the transition to lower carbon energy sources. As part of the agreement, New Fortress Energy says the government will facilitate the obtainment of necessary permits and entitlements by the New Fortress to construct the LNG terminal, and that the terminal is expected to begin operations by the second half of 2022. The purchase of the government's interest in the company owning the power plant is subject to final documentation, and the parties will work together to finalize their commercial agreements. Treasury Secretary S.R. Artigala also confirmed the signing of the agreement to First at 9. Meanwhile, in line with the government's policy of accelerating the transition to cleaner and cheaper energy sources, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had instructed the Ceylon Electricity Board to not expand the Noracholai coal power plant any further. Spokesperson of the Ministry of Power, Sulakshana Jayawardena, told First at 9 that during a meeting held last week, the head of state instructed the CB to expand the clean energy capacity in the country to 90%, going beyond the previous target of 70%. As for the expansions of the Noracholai coal power plant, Jayawardena said that the CB is still mulling the halt of the project or not.
The Marine Environment Protection Authority says that a comprehensive assessment pertaining to the damage caused to the country's marine ecosystems by the MV Express Pearl disaster is currently underway. The first interim report on the environmental damage is expected from the 41-member expert committee within 3 months. If and when compensation for the damage is paid by the vessel's owners, the Marine Environment Protection Authority intends to set about repairing some of the damage with the funds.
In May this year, Sri Lanka suffered one of the worst environmental disasters the world has ever seen. Feeder vessel Express Pearl caught fire within the Colombo port jurisdiction, releasing tons of plastic pellets and thousands of liters of acid and other toxins into the island's precious seas. In the weeks that followed, it became evident that rectifying this man-made disaster would be a Herculean task. Plastic pellets in their millions washed ashore along with dead marine life.
We actually have taken rapid action to remove all the debris from the coastal area. The pollution has extended from Kerinda up to Mana, covering nearly 740 kilometers. And to date, NEPA has deployed more than 15,000 man-days, and we have removed more than 2,200 metric tons of waste. And those waste we have collected and stored in environmentally responsible manner in a hazardous waste collection yard. And we have plans to dispose them also in environmental friendly manner.
In the aftermath of the disaster, the government submitted an interim claim of $40 million to the ship's owners, who responded with a payment of around $3.6 million as part of the first interim payment. Even at face value, given the damage the incident had done to the marine life, needless to say, the sum is inadequate. So the Marine Protection Authority, along with other agencies, are presently conducting a broad assessment to quantify the damage and submit a much larger compensation claim.
NEPA actually have formed an expert committee comprised of 41 professionals covering 14 institutions ministries and universities, and we do the study under 10 thematic areas. So far, as per the information received by the Department of Wildlife, nearly 226 turtles died, and also 6 whales and 26 dolphins as of yesterday. We are in the process of doing the proper and comprehensive damage assessment. For that, we have given this expert committee a TOR of 3 months. We are expecting them to produce their first interim report on environmental damage, and with that, I think we'll be able to identify what are the impacted areas and how far the consequences of this incident has gone. Chemical pollution and damages to the seawater, seabed, damages to the biodiversity, special focus given to marine mammals, the turtles and seabirds, and then air pollution and the fisheries, then health and community health and fisheries loss, tourism and other economic damages. Likewise, waste management. Likewise, there are 10 thematic areas that we are doing the study at the moment.
If and when the claim is paid, the Marine Environment Protection Authority plans to put the funds to good use and rebuild the destroyed ecosystems.
With this report, we'll be actually claiming damages from the owners or the insurers of the company, of the vessel, so that we want to reimburse whatever the damages that has done to coastal and ecosystem. That is number one. And as the second step, we are planning to do proper restoration, utilizing those monies, having proper and scientific structured restoration with the assistance of local and foreign experts. Damage assessment would actually give us clear idea about the areas that we need to focus. And of course, we can see at the outset that the damage to the turtles and the other marine mammals are huge. So definitely we'll have to have protection and restoration program of those species. But then damages to the corals, the mangroves and other areas are yet to know. Once we get the report, I think we'll be able to identify the damage and then focus comprehensive restoration program afterwards.
We will see you on the other side of this break. Bear with us.
ගෙදරකට තේ හදනවා කියන්නේ වෙනම වැඩ. එක එක්කෙනාගේ පදම වෙනස්. මැලිබන් තේ ගෙදර පදමට තේ.
Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, police arrested 2 more suspects yesterday over the sexual exploitation of a 15-year-old girl. Police media spokesperson Senior DIG Ajit Rohan said that a former bank manager and a former police officer were apprehended in the latest round of arrests. Now, the Colombo Child and Women Bureau of the police has launched an investigation into how the 15-year-old was sexually exploited. The incident came to light following a complaint received by the Mount Lavinia police last month. Investigations conducted so far have led to the arrest of over 30 suspects. Among the arrested are the mother of the minor, the vice chairman of the Mihintale Pradesha Sabha, the man who designed the advertisement putting the minor up for prostitution, a Buddhist monk, a captain of a ship, 4 owners of websites that published the advertisement, and the former Maldivian State Minister Mohammed Ashmali. The perpetrators had posted multiple online advertisements and sold the teen to third parties for a period of 3 months. Market experts expect a positive sentiment at the Colombo Stock Exchange in the week ahead, starting from tomorrow. The all-share price index ended at 7,852.19 last Friday, gaining 40.58 points, while the S&P SL 20 index of more liquid stocks gained 23.13 points to close at 2,979.01. Here's Achyutan Srirangan with the market forecast for the coming week.
The first half of the last week is very dull, and for the second half, just after the new finance minister appointment, the retail sentiment got driven by again, and we seen a market rally in the second half of the last week. We are getting into the results for the June quarter. That means we are going into the results period, for we might see the companies which done very well for the last quarter. That means the June quarter, with the retail people and for the high net worth people, for the future expectation for they will create a more demand on those stocks. still we see in the material and the capital goods sectors are the most of the retail favorite counters, and we see the foreign exchange gainers coming from textiles, and for the power most of the retail favorites going to be in the next week. Continuously we seen the foreign selling for the last week also. Latter part of the week we seen a foreign selling of the market. We expect the same scenario to continue in the next week also, with the foreign selling for those volumes will be get absorbed by local. We feel the market going to post a positive week for the next week with the retail participation.
Experts say that the threat of an OPEC plus price war, a global spread of the Delta coronavirus variant, and worries it could stall a worldwide pandemic or worldwide economic recovery continue to weigh on the oil market in the short term. Ratings agencies and industry insiders say that the sector is likely to remain under pressure due to an impasse between major producers, and if there is no immediate deal on production and supply quotas, then more oil will be supplied to the market, which will hit prices. US crude oil for August delivery ended up $1.62 at $74.56 a barrel on Friday, while Brent for September delivery rose by $1.43 to $75.55. Prices have risen to their highest level in 3 years due to a widening oil deficit, which is currently assessed at slightly more than 1 million barrels per day. Oil supply is constrained by previous alliance output decisions, while crude oil demand is growing as the global economy recovers from pandemic-related shocks. Earlier this week, OPEC Plus postponed for a third time its meeting to finalize the decision on the next phase of production increases and each country quotas. Saudi Arabia, Russia and the UAE are reportedly struggling to reach a compromise. We will see you shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says that she is concerned about the Delta variant and other COVID-19 variants threatening global recovery, and urged her G20 counterparts to speed up vaccine sharing support. Over the last 2 days, the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors gathered in Venice, which is their first face-to-face talks since the start of the pandemic.
We are very concerned about the Delta variant and other variants that could emerge and threaten recovery. We are a connected global economy. What happens in any part of the world affects all other countries. We also spoke about the pandemic's adjacent economic crisis and its impact on low-income countries. By some measures, the slowdown of the global economy will erase decades of progress in the fight against extreme poverty in these places. This weekend, the G20 stressed that we will provide support, but we know that the pandemic is far from under control in many parts of the world, especially in many low-income nations. And as long as the virus continues to spread, we're all still at risk.
The US Treasury Secretary also expressed hope that in the next meeting in October, the G20 can set an ambitious target of $100 billion in special drawing rights channeling and agree to establish a new trust fund at the IMF.
By our next meeting in October, we hope the G20 can set an ambitious target of $100 billion in SDR channeling and agree to establish a new trust fund at the IMF that complements the fund's programs and supports green recoveries. Moving forward, the common framework for debt treatments will be the primary tool for low-income countries to seek debt treatment. We're committed to continuing to strengthen the common framework process, and we encourage low-income countries needing debt relief to come forward to the G20's common framework process.
Now, one of Haiti's most powerful gang leaders has said that his men would take to the streets to protest the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse, threatening to pitch the impoverished Caribbean country deeper into chaos. The plot of the assassination remains unclear.
Jimmy Cherzier, a former cop known as Barbecue who heads the so-called G9 Federation of 9 gangs, rallied against police and opposition politicians whom he accused of colluding with the stinking bourgeois, a sacrificed Jovenel Moïse, Haiti's president. He said in a video address that it was a national and international conspiracy against the Haitian people. Moïse was gunned down before dawn on Wednesday at his Port-au-Prince home by what Haitian authorities said was a unit of trained assassins comprising 26 Colombians and 2 Haitian Americans. The murder and the still murky plot behind it has caused further political instability in the long-troubled country, prompting the country to call for US and UN assistance. Cherzier said his followers would practice legitimate violence and that it was time for the masters of the system, the business magnates of the Syrian and Lebanese descent who dominate parts of the economy, to give back the country. He went on to say that it's time for black people with Afro hair to own supermarkets, to have car dealerships and own banks. Some of the so-called magnates had been at loggerheads with Moïse. Jovenel Moïse had spoken of darker forces behind years of unrest and proposed a referendum to change Haiti's constitution. He said that rivals and oligarchs are angry about what he called his attempts to clean up government contracts and politics.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.